All right, welcome to this explainer. Look, we're going to jump straight into how you can conquer the stock market by, well, first, conquering your own evolutionary biology. If you're a young professional just starting to map out your financial future, it's super easy to assume you've got to somehow outsmart all the Wall Street experts to get ahead. But as we're about to see, the secret to wealth, it actually has nothing to do with outsmarting the market at all.
We're kicking things off with this brilliantly simple quote from Warren Buffett. Because honestly, the real final boss of building your wealth isn't Wall Street. It's not the economy either. It's you. You see, the financial industry really wants you to believe that investing is this impossibly complex puzzle. But the cold, hard truth is that the absolute greatest threat to your portfolio is simply the person staring back at you in the mirror.
So, Section 1. Invest in your earning power.
Now, if you're in your 20s or 30s, here's a reality check. Your absolute greatest financial asset isn't your bank account right now. It's your future earning potential. Sure, the stock market historically returns, maybe 7 to 10% annually, but investing in yourself, that can yield something totally exponential. Think about it. A course or credential that costs $5,000 but boosts your salary by $10,000, that literally pays for itself in 6 months and then generates returns for the rest of your career. That's a massive return that no market crash, no recession, and certainly no inflation can ever take away from you. Your brain is literally the only asset that compounds at the exact rate you choose to compound it.
Moving on to Section 2, the index fund advantage. Okay, so once you've maximized your earning power, you still have to navigate a financial industry that is basically designed to siphon away your cash through the illusion of complexity. Think about the math on fees for a second. Wall Street charges active management fees that seem so small on paper, like maybe 1.5%. Big deal, right? Well, yeah, it is a big deal. Over a 30-year investing horizon, that seemingly tiny 1.5% fee will literally eat up over 30% of your total returns. It's crazy. It compounds against you. This is exactly why John Bogle created the simple, low-cost index fund in the first place, to give you the market's return without Wall Street skimming all your profits right off the top.
And to escape that fee trap, the strategy is simple. You buy broad index funds and you just wait. Look, on one hand, we live in the society of hyperactive day traders pulling levers, betting on short-term uncertainty. Let's be real, that's gambling, and the house always wins. True investing, on the other hand, is patiently watering value-producing assets over the long haul. When it comes to investing, the patient player always wins.
All right, Section 3, meet your partner, Mr. Market.
So, to really understand the root of all your investing anxiety, let's talk about Benjamin Graham's famous 1949 metaphor. Graham, who famously mentored Warren Buffett, created this character called Mr. Market. Imagine you have a business partner who shows up every single day. Some days he's completely euphoric, offering to buy your shares for an absolute fortune. Other days he's totally despondent, practically begging to sell his shares for pennies. The key takeaway here? Mr. Market is there to serve you, not guide you. His wild mood swings should absolutely never dictate your actions. Instead, your one job is to completely ignore his euphoric peaks and his totally depressing crashes. So the absolutely crucial point here is separating normal, temporary market volatility from true, actual risk. The financial industry loves to tell you that price fluctuations, volatility, are risk, but they aren't. If your beautifully diversified portfolio drops 20% on paper, you haven't actually lost anything, unless, of course, you panic and sell. Real risk is permanently losing your money in a bankruptcy or simply failing to have the cash you need when it's finally time to retire. Which brings us to a really critical question. When the market drops 30% and the news is just screaming that financial doomsday is here, who do you think is the real danger to your hard-earned wealth? Is it the Federal Reserve? Politicians? The hedge funds? Let's look at Section 4, rewiring your investor brain.
The shocking answer to that last question, it's the person looking back at you in the mirror. Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman proved that we all basically operate on two systems. We panic sell because our fast, emotional System 1, the part of our brain that's literally still wired to run from lions on the African savanna, so easily hijacks the slow, rational System 2 that we actually need for investing. When markets crash, your brain chemically forces you to want to flee.
And to protect your rational brain from being hijacked like that, you have to completely tune out the daily financial news cycle. Those pundits yelling on TV, they're really just inventing authoritative-sounding nonsense to explain totally random daily market movements. They need a narrative to keep you glued to the screen. But absorbing all that noise, it does absolutely nothing but trigger your emotional system 1. So here are the exact behavioral defenses you need to set up right now to force good behavior and remove those savannah-wired emotions from the equation entirely. First, automate everything. Seriously, make it so willpower isn't even required. Second, stop checking your portfolio every single day. Checking it once a quarter is plenty. And third, enforce a strict 30-day waiting period before making any major financial decisions after a life event, like getting married, divorced, or getting an inheritance. Just let the emotions settle down first. Moving on to Section 5, the true measure of wealth. Now that your investments are safely on autopilot, let's completely redefine what financial success actually looks like out in the real world. As that famous Millionaire Next Door research proves, the person driving that flashy sports car, they are so often trapped in a crazy, stressful cycle of consumption. High income simply does not equal wealth. True wealth is actually invisible. It's the car you didn't buy, the house you didn't upgrade. It's invisible accumulation. It's delayed gratification. The actual real-world millionaires out there are often driving 10-year-old Toyotas and running totally boring businesses. Now, here's a really tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. Despite what you've probably heard your entire life, your primary residence is a consumption good. It eats cash flow. It is not a wealth-building strategy. A true investment generates cash flow for you. But as you quickly find out with endless repairs and property taxes, a house consumes it. Yes, it absolutely provides stability, but please do not confuse a place to live with an investment portfolio. So, what's the actual end goal here? True financial independence isn't about buying a private jet or living in a massive mansion. It's the ultimate luxury of having options. It's about reclaiming your time so you can actually choose what you want to do on a random Tuesday morning. Remember, time is your only truly finite resource. Financial independence simply means having enough saved up that working becomes a choice rather than a lifelong obligation. Honestly, if you stacked every single finance book written over the last 5,000 years, they'd probably reach the moon. But the timeless rules of wealth, they basically boil down to this super simple checklist. Save at least 10% of your earnings. Buy low-cost index funds. Avoid bad debt like the plague. Keep a 6-month emergency fund. Be patient. And give back generously. The knowledge part is surprisingly easy. It's the behavior part that's incredibly hard. As you stick to those rules and start accumulating wealth, keep Andrew Carnegie's warning in the back of your mind. This is a guy who gave away 90% of his fortune while he was still alive, arguing that simply hoarding wealth creates absolutely no value, and that giving back expands who you are. Money really just amplifies who you already are, and giving it away is incredibly psychologically freeing. Which brings us to the end of our journey today. And I want to leave you with this final, kind of provocative thought to chew on. Once you've conquered your inner saboteur, once you've automated all those good behaviors, and you've built up this massive financial snowball over the decades, what is all that accumulated money actually going to do for the world?